Hey guys, only a couple of weeks to Seller Sessions Live. Go grab one of the final tickets at sellersessions.com/live. Make sure you sign up for this Thursday's Ranking Factors webinar. The link is in the notes below this recording. Get your Amazon ranking and marketing questions answered by Viral Launches head honcho Casey Goss, Orange Hackmaster Ivan Demirov, ranking expert and pioneer Anthony Lee, chatbot king Paul Harvey, Leran Hirschkorn, myself, Athena Severi, and Dan Ashburn. Don't forget to sign up, check the link below, and I'll see you there. Welcome back to Seller Sessions live on Facebook, and I'm going to try and pronounce your name properly, and no doubt I'm going to butcher this, but Yevs Marusenko. Is that close enough?
It's definitely close enough.
Excellent. So let's work with that. So a little bit of backstory. We've been covering this whole breaking news based on the ranking and suspension things that's going on. Early in the week, we got it wrong a bit in the sense that that we're relating to a post on the help pages on Amazon, which hadn't been updated, which we kind of cleared that up. But in and between all of this information, what was good about it is that Anthony Lee shared a video of you doing an explanation from a data science point of view.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Danny. The big part of the background is where I come from, an academic background. So that's where my data-driven mindset comes in, and interacting with a lot of engineering, being a data scientist, not as far as a data scientist as engineering, but doing lots of math and statistics during my multiple academic degrees. So when I got into marketing, it's always been from a data standpoint and basically a growth hacking standpoint, because I'm trying to see what are the algorithms and how does Amazon, Facebook, different platforms, how can we navigate it even better? So I think that's the perspective that I'm approaching pretty much anything, whether it's from a marketing campaign or strategy.
Yeah, and cool. And you work with Leo as well, don't you? Is it Zon Tracker? There's Zon, lots of Zon projects that you guys work on, isn't it?
Actually, they're all separate. So Zon Tracker, it's different from all of the other Zon related names.
Okay, I didn't realize
that. Yeah. So it's on its own, actually.
Gotcha. Okay, so give the audience a bit of background on what Zon Tracker is, etc.
Yeah, Zon Tracker. So we were using it for our own brand for a couple of years, and it was basically to help with our external traffic to have more data. The main thing that it does, it shows Amazon sales that are coming from Facebook ads, and it shows it directly in Facebook Ad Manager. So that there's a whole bunch of ways that you could track Amazon sales, but there's always some sort of inefficiencies in it. And this way, we basically automated it and also able to pull Amazon data into Facebook, so we could do retargeting or build lookalikes. And then also, and this is just more of a newest feature, to optimize for Amazon purchases from Facebook ads. So it's very integrating Facebook with Amazon. And I think that's because I kind of came from this world of being across multiple different channels, not just focus on Amazon and thinking about external traffic. And I think that's why this discussion is really interesting, because Amazon is becoming more than just within Amazon. So you have to see how do other channels and other factors play into a role, not just kind of within Amazon strategies.
Cool. So let's get into the guts of it. So do you want to start breaking down some of the things that you're seeing and just set up the hypothesis for us of, you know, where you're seeing the data points, where you're seeing it come from, and some of the things and the insights that you've seen?
For sure. And this is a combination where at the beginning you were talking about how there's like a lot more recent chatter, or there's kind of like breaking news. And I think because there's more culmination of different events happening and people posting, and maybe people are making more out of it than it is, but at least it's making people analyze it and talk about it and have all of these cross collaborations, putting all of this data together. So maybe something is happening, something is that there's more chatter about it. So there must be something happening, and maybe Amazon is having, their board meetings or something is happening where they're affecting the algorithm. So that's why we're having these discussions. And for me, it's seeing the data from two different ways. One is just talking with hundreds of Amazon sellers and Facebook advertisers and seeing data and looking at this data. And one, just having this data-driven perspective where I know how algorithms work and how different platforms, how they see data. So it's putting the two together. What do we see in actual data and different discussions we're having? And then theoretically, how does data work? And then how can Amazon just make a little switch and then the algorithm changes, but the data, it's always the same. It's just how do you interpret the data, and then how do you process the data, and then Amazon makes those decisions where they focus their engineering time into the different data.
Yeah. Cool. So do you want to break that down for us then? So let's just talk about it. So I'll give an example. Accounts getting suspended. Why does it get suspended? There's a relationship between doing promotional discounted giveaways, etc. There's also talk about the use of certain URLs. From my understanding, I've never known an account to be suspended exclusively based, one, on a promotion, and two, on any type of URL. I've never seen category, absolute proof of this.
So some very specific examples, and then this is where I want to dive in a little bit deeper into the other video that I did, where it was basically talking about data and how Amazon sees the data. And I want to give some comparison points of how different brands are doing it and how their data looks different to Amazon. Yeah. And what I'm talking about is there's different factors that Amazon looks at, and it all comes down to all kinds of statistical analyses. Because this has to be automated. There's so many hundreds of thousands of, well, there's like millions of sellers, but the ones that have more activity, hundreds of thousands of sellers, and there's millions and billions of data points. So it's all automated, all of these analyses. And even whenever there's like a trigger of account review, there's all kinds of automated process to like narrow down and basically match data of an account to some sort of prediction model, where Amazon knows here's a new account, here's how many sales a new account has on average across all accounts. So they have, here's the average, here's the median, here's what a new account looks like compared to an account that's 1 year old compared to 3 years old. And then within those, there's all kinds of factors where a newer account typically has less products than an older account. So all of those metrics go into just kind of like picture it as this line of newer accounts. And I'm going to be talking about kind of like at the lower level and the higher level, older accounts, because I think that's one of the factors that's correlated with other factors. Because as the account increases, you have more products, you have more traffic sources, you have different types of promotions that are happening. So there's more diversity in the data. So basically, newer accounts compared to older accounts, the next level you can break it down, and this is the way I like to think about it, is kind of like our Amazon community. That's maybe the ones that are, how do I call it? Like maybe trying to like growth hack it in a way. We're trying to find like how to navigate the algorithm compared to a lot of like old school Amazon sellers. I don't know if that's a good way of saying it, where they're like not even into marketing. They just have a presence, and then they're on Amazon, and maybe they're so popular, people are searching for them. Like they're not trying to navigate the system. They're just on Amazon and they have success because naturally
these ones that are grandfathered in is what you're saying, is a lot of them, because they've been there, let's just say they're from 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like, because a lot of the newer people, like I got involved and other people got involved. 2014, 2015, they called that like the gold rush years, whereas a lot more, it was like the Google algorithm before it all got changed, and you had Panda and everything else. But
yeah, that's part of it. So if you're thinking about it as grandfather accounts, but I'm also talking about whether it's retails or stores or brands that are popular off of Amazon, and then they just happen to get on Amazon because they hear about it, but they're not like tech savvy or marketing or like digital marketing savvy. They just put their account on Amazon, which could have been only in the past couple of years, so not grandfathered in. But because they have so many people searching for them, because they're popular elsewhere, that they're just going to get sales and velocity and reviews and everything, but they're not navigating in any way as we would in our communities. Like they're not in our Facebook groups. So like those types of people where they have success, but it's because just the pure nature of their like they're popular, or they're like on a TV commercial. There's some of those things happening.
Yeah, as seen on TV, and they're driving external traffic to Amazon. That's going to give a different signal, isn't it?
Yes, and the reason I want to give that comparison is because I've always been skeptical when someone says that if you just give so much velocity or just so much traffic and sales to Amazon, there's going to be all of these red flags, because this happens every day. There's so many TV shows and product matches where there's like these spikes of activity. I think, what do we have to think about? Are you a new seller or an older seller, and how do these spikes look like? Because even from my experience when I was working with the brand for a couple of years, I talked about it publicly before frequently, but So we were on Good Morning America and on TV, and anytime there would be like really big PR, we would see spikes in sales on Amazon. But other thing that happened is that we would see spikes of other activity. There would be like magazines and blogs, and there would be something on Pinterest and Facebook. From one source of like a spike, it would have other effects, and then those sources would all go to Amazon. But if we're artificially trying to make a spike, it's usually one source, and that's much easier for Amazon to detect, where it's, like a launch, as we call it, or some sort of blast, or this spike of activity where there's no effect on other sources contributing to that spike. It's just like one huge spike, and maybe before it worked much better, and we still hear that it's still working today, probably to a lesser degree. But this is where now I'm starting to think that from a data perspective, it makes sense that one spike could be different than another spike, how Amazon sees the variability in that data.
Yeah, I think in some cases, we probably woefully underestimate the sophistication of that algorithm, from an outsider's point of view. It's like, oh, we'll send a bit of traffic to it. We can do, 60, 70, 80, 90% off discounts. So, but imagine if you've got an account. Let's give you an example. You've been running 2 or 3 years and you are doing like discounted, promotions. And every time you do a launch, and Amazon is gathering this data, is that you don't start off with any organic sales, and everything you do is purely from a launch from the very beginning. You are giving Amazon one look, can't you? It's not diversified. If you do that, if you go, right, I'm going to give away 300 or 400 units, and you're launching new products every couple of months or so, and if that's the pattern on your account all the time, maybe that is a flag. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that flag, that data, it's not necessarily that spike that you bring into your account, but it's that spike relative to other accounts that are of a exactly similar age or in a similar category. So there's all of these comparisons, and these are just all kinds of statistical analysis that are happening like every split second. There's like regressions and canonical correspondence analysis, like all of these different things happening, where how is that data relative to other accounts of the same type of similar account, and then how does that account fit into a predicted model where we know it's not an old account, so it's okay for the sales to be at a certain level. But if you spike 10,000 sales into it, and maybe that's normal for a really big account, but it would be even a bigger flag for smaller accounts.
So can you give me some examples of some data points for the audience? I'll put you on the spot there, aren't I? Sorry.
Narrow it down a little bit more.
Well, I suppose what I'm asking is that if you think about if we silo in and just look at triggers, let's think about what are some of the triggers. What are Amazon looking for? So, we're looking, obviously, the amount of sales that are taking place on a given day if it becomes unusual activity. Then there's going to be the distribution between organic sales and sales that have been bought through a coupon code. Do you see what I mean?
I gotcha. So the way I look at it is, and how I mentioned earlier, where age of the account is one of those things where it's co-correlated with a whole bunch of different factors. So then it's kind of meaningless talking about age. You have to think about it as your own brand, where like what does the age of account mean? And then when we break that down further, one of the biggest ones is diversity of that traffic, because that's how the variability is different. And I'm going to talk about the diversity of traffic, what that means, because I think when I say it, people think, oh yeah, it's just different sources of traffic. I'm actually going to pinpoint that a little bit further, because when so even the example you just gave earlier, where someone has a new account, or even let's say the specific example, 2 or 3 years old, where it's like kind of not, and then you have 300 or 500 spike of sales, some sort of discounted sale, and it's one type of source of traffic. But let's compare that to, there are still accounts that are in that same category where it's that age, and they just happen to get on some popular TV show, like just something happens where it's a very similar, in Amazon's eyes, very similar account, like a same category, similar product, but because they have connections, PR, or some sort of funding where they diversify their sources, they do a same spike of activity, but then there's different effects from that. So then the source of traffic comes in. It's not just the one type of discount with the same discount value where the variability is the data. It's basically variance of data and standard deviation, confidence interval. There's all of these data points that tell you how much is that variability. So Amazon sees that. So it's going to be different triggers in the simple account compared to, or not the simple, the less diversified account compared to the one that's diversified. So some of these factors, and you mentioned things like sales reviews, and there's a list. I know there were a couple of articles before where there's like 200 factors that Amazon looks at, or maybe like 47 that are some of the top factors, which is, how many add to carts, how many reviews, what are the traffic sources. And I think those are the things where we ultimately don't know, and sometimes we have more or less confidence. Sometimes I think there was a recent article where like it came from some secret source, so maybe there's more confidence in it, and a lot of brands like support, oh yeah, this makes sense, like add to carts or like something that makes sense. So there's those factors that are important, and those are the ones that are always fluctuating, and it depends on the category, the age of the account. But the factor that I want to bring more attention is to diversification of the traffic, because that's what changes the algorithm of each of those other 200 factors. Because if one factor that's important, like reviews or just sales, each factor has another constant, or there's a variable that Amazon has that here's this important factor, but when we'll do another data analysis that depending on that data, we may like disqualify this data or like weigh it, or we put some variable in it that's going to make this less important. And that's where other factors come in. And I think they're less direct factors like sales reviews. That's a very direct factor. It's something I think it's been talked about more, and even diversity of traffic that has been talked about more.
I suppose the people that talk about it is non-data scientists. Like you guys are moving the needle on a deeper level. Yeah. So what people are looking at is even though if you're a technical marketer outside of programming or have a data background, you're going to slim down these attributes, aren't you? Because there's only so many attributes that we would probably know about because we're trained in data science, right? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're splitting the atom, because you're taking one of these factors and you're creating variants or dozens of variants of this individual factor. So you've got this complete web of activity that's taken place. So if you were to throw that up on a mind map on the board, there may be, you'd start to fill the board with hundreds of data points because of the different variabilities of each of those factors. They just keep expanding and expanding and expanding. And it must be quite difficult to manage that as a project.
Yeah, and this is consistent with what you're saying, how other people say that they did something the same as somebody else, and for somebody a launch worked and for somebody it didn't, because there's so many other factors that are in play. And even so, let's break down further where the previous example where 2-year-old account, you do a launch in 300 units, and what does that mean? It means somebody from some sort of traffic source saw your promotion, and then they took action. They went on Amazon, they completed the transaction. And what Amazon sees, and let's say this launch is from either like an email source or a Facebook ad. Even something as simple as a Facebook ad, the way Amazon sees it, there are many sources to it, because it sees the domain, the refer. It could be m.facebook.com, where it's from mobile. If you ever looked at Google Analytics sources, there's all of these breakdowns within one domain where it might have like an L in front of it, and is it a secure site or non-secure site? So each of those has a different, even if it's like one promotion, it actually has multiple domains and referral path that's it's sending to Amazon. And then there's things like domain authority, where Amazon knows all of this. What is the trust factor of a website? So whether it's from Facebook, and then within Facebook, is it from a popular page or not a popular page? Is it coming from Messenger? So when you're launching, think about it this way, that, and this is how you can actually, this is more of like a suggestion, is that when you're doing this, think of, even if it's one promotion, if it's very focused, how can you diversify within that promotion? Because there's other type of diversification. Use YouTube, Pinterest, Twitter, like PR and like third-party blogs, influencers. I think that's when people think about diversification. But as a first step, so that way it's not like too complex, because we could have this conversation and nobody's going to do anything different because it's like too complex. And I think the complex part is splitting your your brand resources to try to learn how to do Twitter marketing or whatever.
But this is what like you're saying about the complex part here. This is, like that they're them variables between success, not successful. It's like, I think the margins are changing now. I think the larger companies, people involved with Amazon space now, they're growing towards, having a full stack data team working on them, like 8 figures and 9 figure sellers, because the importance of data now. I think in order to stay ahead of the curve, we're going to have more teams of developers around us working on that data science perspective to give you that additional edge. And I think that's the way it's going. I think data is definitely the way forward. I know some people find it interesting, some people find it boring, but I definitely think in the next few years, you'll see the people surfacing at the top, the ones with the data and the know-how to act on that data and get results from it.
Mm-hmm. And one of the patterns that I've only been able to see in the past couple of months, and this is through Zontrider. Before, I just didn't have enough conversations with the CMOs or the CEOs or the Facebook ads guy, where now in the past year there's enough accounts where I've had enough discussions and looked at enough data where I clearly see it, and this is the top half of the accounts that are having success. And by success, I mean they figured out their Facebook ads and their Amazon together, is that there's more diversification. There's still accounts where they're focused in on one type of funnel, and it could be any type of funnel, whether it's to a landing page or some sort of messenger bot, and they focus all in on that, but they have enough Amazon sales where even that spike of activity, like it's kind of diluted because they have so much success on Amazon, they can, kind of like risk it having just one type of strategy. But then the other half of the sellers is that there's so many different funnels going on in their Facebook ad account. And because I don't see, if they're doing Pinterest ads, that just, I'm not part of that data. I don't see that. I don't know. Like I can Google the brands and look at them individually and see that, oh yeah, they're actually everywhere. So that diversification is coming in. But even within Facebook ad campaigns, if they have some sort of giveaway or a new product or a launch, some sort of promotion, they're diversifying it within different types of campaigns where it's not just like one type of messenger bot. There's a survey, there's a giveaway, there's just brand awareness, there's video and gaming. So it's all kinds of ads and all kinds of like psychological strategies of how they're bringing in consumers and types of consumers. So that way, when Amazon receives the data where here's a purchase and whether it's 85% off or 50% off, it's coming from all of these different URLs within Facebook. So Amazon might think that it just went viral on Facebook. It's like a real thing because it's from all of these different sources, rather than, oh yeah, it's like part of this sub-referral path within Facebook that's coming from only Messenger, and then everything is the same. So even the data that I'm seeing where now actually able to interpret with other things that are going on, that the more successful accounts, they have that diversification within their ad campaigns.
Cool. Sounds good. Right. So we've been running about 25 minutes now and I've been loving this, but we're probably best to do a part 2. Give me 3 or 4 things that you think sellers should be doing now to diversify traffic and what to look out for.
Yeah. So one of the things, and this is, before I would almost say this as not to do, where I usually like to say where, and this is from an ads perspective, when you're running an ad, you have to constantly optimize it, meaning that if you're testing so many different ads where the budget is diluted everywhere, you won't optimize just one ad. So you have to do very quick tests, whether it's 20 different ads or 30 different ads, but then very quickly narrow down to just the top 3 and start optimizing those. So one of the things is that there's this transition where before I would always say focus in on a certain area so you can optimize and basically like scale one funnel. Mm-hmm. But it seems like that's kind of the opposite of diversification. So now you have to even test more of those strategies where you're testing a variety of different funnels. So one would be, if you're testing something like a messenger bot or a landing page, try to have a very simple version of the other one as well. You have your messaging, you have, like a survey or questions, just duplicate that in the other form. If you're doing a messenger bot, do a landing page as well. If you're doing a landing page, do a messenger bot, but do it like the 80-20 rule. Don't spend a month building a page and then you run it and it's actually bad results. Just do it in a way where you get it up and you're running, just so you have a diversity of traffic going. And then from that, then you could try a third type where and I see this often, and I think Amazon loves this data, is third-party websites or third-party people talking about you. So it could be like a different blog or influencer that's on their own site, and those that are earlier on, you might think, how do I get people talking about me? It's very easy. There's very small bloggers that have small websites. The domain authority may be low, but it's very easy for you to give them a product, they'll review it, or just you don't even need to pay more than $100 for your product to be on their website, and then your ads go to their destination. So that's already diversification of traffic to Amazon. So break it down again, I would say do a very simple step of diversifying the type of funnel you're running.
Excellent. Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for joining us. I'll get you back on soon. Guys, I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care. Thanks for joining us.
Great. Thank you.